This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Please be aware I am not a medical expert, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. Hey everyone! Welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. I'm Ashley. This podcast is based off of my blog of the same name, Eat, Explore, Love. It talks about the unique challenges in traveling around the world when you have celiac disease. Due to sort of popular demand, I decided to also record a podcast to delve a little deeper into my travels and the lessons learned along the way. We're back for another episode of Eat, Explore, Love the podcast. Today's conversation is with Jaclyn Francis, an Ascension guide that helps you with your spiritual healing with her Worthiness Code. Make sure to be on the lookout for her courses and classes coming out late summer, beginning of fall. Her and I talked after the podcast ended, and we are determined that I'm going to go through a session with her and hopefully be able to bring my learnings back with you guys in a part 2 episode. If this is something that you're interested in or have any questions about for that part 2 episode, always feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com as always. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Hi, Jaclyn. Welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Ashley. So excited to be here as well.
I did a little bit of research, so I have an idea of who you are, but I would love to know in your own words your background and what got us to this conversation today.
Yeah, I would love to share. I have an interesting background. I am definitely in the spiritual realm right now. It hasn't always been that way, but I started my spiritual journey when I was 28, so back in around 2018. And it's been a roller coaster. It's been quite the whirlwind. But how I identify myself right now is a spiritual advisor, helping guide women into their ascension journey. So I do that as well as some energy healing work as well.
So, what is I've heard different terms as far as the spiritual journey in different ways, and there's all these different titles and categories for it. So,
Yeah.
Ascension is something new to me. Could you educate me on what being an Ascension guide is?
Yeah, I would love to. So a lot of people explain ascension differently. The way I like to explain it is a journey you take to awaken your soul. So, to step into your authenticity, your truth, your power, to live life through a lens that not everyone does, but you're essentially seeing life much differently than it is at face value. You're seeing it through a lens that is spiritual. And to me, to be spiritual is just to be fully aligned to who you are at your truest essence and to live life from that place.
So you said that this all happened for you starting at 28, and is there is it just that you feel spirit guides coming to you? Is it that you just feel someone's energy? How does it manifest and work for you? Because I feel like 28 seems to be a very particular age for that to happen for you. How did that all work? What was the trigger for you for it to open and awaken for you in that way?
Yeah, when I was 28, I started suffering from anxiety. I did not feel comfortable in the job I was in, just like in my life in general. I knew I was meant for more,
Mm.
and I didn't know what that looked like. I was also in a relationship that I just knew I wasn't supposed to be in, and sure, we can all relate to that. And it caused so much anxiety that I decided to go see a Reiki healer.
Mm.
Didn't know much about Reiki, which is energy healing for those who are unfamiliar. And I went in completely blindly, and it changed my life. It helped rid my anxiety. I left my relationship 3 days later, and then I got a new job maybe a week or 2 after that, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is crazy."
Mhm.
So, a couple of months later, I decided to step into Reiki myself, and I was trained in it. This was back in 2018. And then fast forward a couple years, 2021, I had a huge spiritual awakening. And kind of like what you were talking about, if like spirit guides come to you, this is a crazy story. I will try to keep this as short as possible, but I had appendicitis
Okay.
and I went to go into my bedroom to give myself self Reiki because the pain was like excruciating, and my higher self came through. So this voice that sounded like me, and said, "This is a spiritual awakening. You're going to get really sick, but just kind of go with it." And I said, "Okay." And then I started channeling. I call it sacred sounds. Some people call it light language. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I started channeling those sounds. I got really sick. I was throwing up. I had a Kundalini awakening. Day later, I had to go to the hospital, get my appendix out, and that started everything. And then from there, I just started healing. And then most recently, at 33, I had another spiritual awakening, which sent me on this whole ascension journey.
Okay.
And through the process of my ascension journey, I was gifted a blueprint to help guide others through their own ascension journey as well. And I didn't know what it was until maybe 6 months into the journey, where I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm being initiated into like every aspect of this." And the light bulb went off, and I was like, "Wow, this blueprint is an ascension journey, and I'm here to help guide others along their journey." So that's kind of why I've stepped into the role that I'm in now.
I
If that makes sense. That was like a long-winded answer, so please
That
let
was
me
not
know.
long at all. That was perfect. I I followed every bit of it, so thank you. And I actually had a Reiki healer on this podcast as a guest as well. And I said this to her, and I'm going to say this to you. I apologize for any ignorant questions I may ask, but I'm fascinated by this and have been wanting to do this for a really long time, of learning about the spiritual part, because I think I've been pushed into the religious spiritual journey for so long, and that was
Mm,
just not a right fit. But what you guys have spoken about makes way more sense to me, and how guiding through life. And as you're guiding, you also said something earlier that stood out to me, of you are in particular with women, that you were going to help women and guide women. Why? To me, it's very clear as to why that would be the case, but I would love to, instead of making an assumption, if you don't mind talking about it, why that route instead of both male, female, whoever? I know that now it's
yeah.
not so binary as far as gender expression, so I apologize to anybody I just offended by phrasing it that way, but you know what I mean. Why that one specialization?
Yeah. First of all, there's no such thing as ignorant questions. So ask any questions that you want. I'm sure your audience can benefit from further clarity as well. So I love questions. But yeah, that's a funny one because I had such a struggle with that at first. My ego was like, why are we just focusing on women?
Mhm.
I'm the type of person, like when I was doing one-on-one healing work, all male clients,
Okay.
constantly was helping men. Held small ceremonies, all men would show up.
Wow.
So to shift gears into this, I was like, really? Like,
Mhm.
why? What is this for? And basically, what was coming through is I'm here to attract people that see themselves through me,
Mhm.
have gone through very similar things in life, to so they can look at me and feel inspired. They can look at me and be like, "Oh my god, I went through that." Like, I think because she got through it, I can get through it as well. Also, there's just it, in the spiritual community, a lot of people talk about how the feminine is rising. So women are really starting to step into their power
Okay.
because the feminine has been suppressed for so long, that now they're starting to wake up and remember their gifts, because women are just naturally intuitive.
Mhm.
So everyone is intuitive, men, women, it doesn't matter, but just women hold a really strong sense of power when it comes to being spiritual, and they're meant to lead and the masculine is meant to follow. So the women are meant to kind of awaken first, and then the men follow from there.
So for further clarity, what is the difference between what you're talking about versus, because a lot of what you're saying, I've heard a lot of psychics and mediums talk about too. Do your does it translate into that for you as well, or is it strictly with energy healing and that's the lane that you are in?
Um, I'm definitely not, I don't consider myself a medium. I channel, and when I channel, I've had uh this is really, let me try to explain this the most simplest way. But when you channel,
Hmm.
people will describe it as someone else coming through.
Okay.
That's a medium, right? They're channeling someone who has crossed over, and they're channeling their messages to give it to the person sitting across from them. I definitely don't do that. Psychics are predicting the future.
Hmm.
With psychics, there are infinite amount of timelines, so they can look at you and predict something, and it can never happen because you shifted gears. I definitely hold psychic abilities, meaning where I have actually felt into future timelines. I have taken myself into past timelines
Okay.
where I was calling myself by a different name to like heal trauma from that timeline.
Okay.
And I've channeled, we can call them spirit guides. This is where it gets a little confusing because what I teach and what I believe is everything lives within,
Mhm.
because your soul is infinite. So someone can say they're channeling a spirit guide, but are you actually channeling a spirit guide, or is it just an aspect of yourself
Mm,
that is separate from you in this time space reality?
gotcha.
If that makes
It
sense.
almost sounds like you work a little bit in past life regression, a little bit of based on what you just said, but I'm probably oversimplifying it. by
Yeah, I mean, past life regression is fascinating, and the people that do that work, I definitely don't want to take any credit away
saying.
from what they do because it's totally different. The work I do on myself is so different from the ascension journey and what I
Mm,
teach others and how I hold space for
yep.
clients. Um, but yeah, I mean, everyone has the ability to kind of just surrender and allow whatever needs to come through to come through. So that's something that has come through for me in the past, and it was wild to say the least.
So you're kind of lighting a fire on me to want to go and do all of the things and figure it all out. I just haven't had. I think I haven't had the guts to be able to do it yet. I need to be more
Mm.
open and not so fearful before I go and make that step into it. But for you and what your services and what you specifically provide, you talked about in, I think it was your appendicitis portion of your long journey through all of this, the light language, right? What is that how you phrased it? What
Yeah.
is light language and how does that apply to the ascension journey or guide?
Yeah. So the way I like to explain light language is sound frequencies
Okay.
that hold very high vibrations. So they come through in the form of sound. They do not sound familiar to the human mind, but the soul finds them very familiar. So that's why you're able to receive them, and the energy that these sounds hold shift, heal, and activate energies of the soul. So it can sound like a totally different language. It could sound like gibberish. It can just sound like sound frequencies.
Mhm.
Um, but you're human. If your human tries to understand it, you're going to be like, what is happening? But again, your soul just finds remembrance in it because the soul is not rooted into, the human experience where it needs a linguistic essence to comprehend something.
Would you mind? I don't know if this is possible to do. Is this something that you feel that is able to be done quite easily virtually, or is it preferred that you have these sessions in person with folks?
Yeah, so it's either. I just had a virtual session last night.
Okay.
Um, the way that they show up for the ascension journey, the way that I'm teaching the ascension journey and the blueprint that I'm sharing is that each aspect of the journey, there are 7 different aspects. And so when a person's moving through that specific part, I'm also providing them with a virtual transmission and guided meditation to help drop them deeper into the energy, to give them more of like a healing ceremony mixed into what they have to move through on their own. So it doesn't matter. I personally love in person all the time, but I know that I'm meant to reach as many people as I can with this blueprint. So virtual is the way that it's being asked to be shared.
So, can you walk me through what a session looks like? Is it that, say, I am your client, do I come and it's like starts off as like traditional talk therapy almost, and then you take what is spoken about and then go from there? How does it work for you? Does it depend on the person? How does it manifest itself?
Yeah, it's different for everyone. I always say the energies are going to come through the way that they want to show up. But it always starts out, I open the space and we have a conversation just so I can understand what's going on, but also by the person communicating out loud what's on their heart, it just opens up the space and allows you to communicate to the universe, your team in spirit, the unseen. And because everything is energy, the words that are coming through your voice also just helps allow you to drop deeper into the energy that is being cultivated before we head into the session.
How important is meditation in the process? Because I have tried meditation so many times and I just can't quiet the noises in my head enough to be able to do it successfully. I just don't have the patience for it either. So how vital is that process to be able to be successful with ascension journeys and guidance?
Yeah. I think meditation is the best thing in the entire world, and everyone should be doing it. You don't have to sit in silence. You don't have to sit and quiet the mind and not have any thoughts. Like, that's really hard to do. I've been meditating for a very long time, and it's hard for me to just sit and quiet my mind. I started out with guided meditations, going on YouTube and typing guided meditations in, and it's so helpful. You can do 10 minutes, you can do 20 minutes, you could even do 5 minutes if you don't have enough time. But for the ascension journey, again, meditation is not a big part of this journey. When we look at an ascension journey, the way that the blueprint came through to me, there's 7 different aspects to it.
Okay.
So you're moving through shedding, you're moving through healing, you're moving through expansion, and you're moving through rebirth, while you're moving through 2 pillars that you're going to hold the entire time, being trust and surrender. So while you're moving through those things, you have to think about what in your life resonates within each of those aspects. So shedding, for example, I left a relationship and I left my career. And then that sent me into a really big inner healing journey where I did a lot of shadow work. So meditation and shadow work, it can help, but when you're doing shadow work, your conscious mind is also part of the process. So you don't necessarily need to be in a completely meditative state. But I think starting out with meditation, if you're someone who's completely new to this, just allows the ego to quiet. It allows your nervous system to be calm, and it allows you to really just shut out the stress and the noise of the outside world to just be. And that's the goal of life, is to just be who you are and not worry about anything else.
So, are we able to walk through a little short sample of that for the audience, just for them to kind of, if in case that's the way that they learn, to hear a sample of it go down? We don't have to go through full thing, but let's just, before I go and jump into it, would that be okay?
A sample meaning
So, if,
what?
for example, I'm coming to you and saying, hey, I'm having a really hard time with, let's go basic of relationships. I'm struggling to be able to open myself up for that relationship journey. Is it that by our first time meeting, you would walk me through that meditation first, and then your guidance is in relation to that specific topic? Or is it that you're going to let the energy take you of like, I know you're telling me that you would like to form a romantic relationship, but I feel like I'm getting a sense that career is perhaps more important at this time. Is that something that you guide people through?
Yeah, so that's a really beautiful question, because so many people, and this isn't just like one-on-one work.
Hmm.
I want to make it really clear now, like, a healer doesn't heal anyone.
Okay.
A healer opens the space for you to heal yourself.
Mm.
So, yes, healers, of course, hold gifts, but you hold gifts as well. So, all we're doing is we're attuning the frequency of that space into an energy that you're able to match.
Okay.
And from there, you're literally matching an energy that is healing, and that's how you heal. I'm never healing you.
Yeah.
So it's really important for people to understand that like you hold the power, and this entire ascension journey that the blueprint called the Worthiness Codes that I am, putting out there for people to do, it's all about putting the power in their hands so they can do it on their own. So if someone wants to heal a relationship, but say they're with me in person holding space, or they're with themselves in ceremony holding space for themselves and trying to heal, and career is coming up instead of a relationship, it's just a deeper root cause of whatever is going on. So, though maybe consciously you're like, okay, I just left my relationship, I want to call in another relationship, but for some reason there's trauma coming up around like money, we can say, instead of career. Let's call it money. Love and money energetically are very closely related. So there's just a deeper layer that's asking for you to be looked at. So then you can heal that in order to then call in the relationship that you desire. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that was the most beautiful way I've ever heard it phrased. Because I think the way that a lot of healers have communicated things to me, it's been like, I'm going to cure you by the end of one session, is
Mhm.
how it's communicated. And of course, they're trying to get people in, they have a business to run, but the way that you phrased it is way more realistic and helpful. So thank you for that. I want to talk about the worthiness code, but before I get into there, I have one more question about a session with you, which is what is the best way for someone to come in? Because I am a type A plus personality. I will have notes and things that I want to discuss and things like that. Is it really just come in with an open mind and let the energy and just figure out how to get yourself to a space and communicate? I'm going to need help with that at the start. How do
Mm.
you recommend people come into a space with you and prepare for these types of sessions if there is any preparation?
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, the what you're saying, wanting to write notes, coming in with like a journal, that's amazing. It's called setting intentions before you come, and you can have whatever you feel called to writing down. Coming in with those will take time to walk through them, and I will just hold space for you to talk through whatever is on your heart, what's on your mind. The biggest intention is just to surrender, because again, the energy is going to come through in the way that you need it to come through, not in the way you necessarily want it to come through. And then after the session, we'll sit again and we'll have another conversation so you can share your experience, and then of course I can share, with your permission, whatever I felt that came through as well.
I love that. So,
Yeah,
thank you for all this. That was a lot just based
of
on the
course.
basics of what you do.
No, I love
It was incredibly
it.
informative and helpful. I want to move into a discussion about what you have called the worthiness code. What is that essentially the blueprint, or is that something
Mhm.
different?
Yeah, so that's the blueprint that I was gifted when I subconsciously started this ascension journey back in I left my last relationship in July of 2023.
Okay.
So when I left that relationship, I subconsciously said yes to going on an ascension journey. And in October, when I agreed to sit in my first medicine ceremony, I grabbed my laptop and I just started writing,
Mm.
and the blueprint came through. And it was called the Worthiness Codes. Part of it was a podcast and part of it was a blueprint. And at the time, I had no idea what the blueprint was. And then that's when, like I said earlier, 6 months into it, the light bulb went off. And I was like, oh my God, the blueprint is an ascension journey. And I'm being initiated into every aspect of the ascension
Yeah.
journey because I'm meant to share it with the world and I'm meant to teach it.
Yeah.
And so it was like a really amazing moment. But yeah, that's what it is.
And people can't that are listening to this podcast can't see you, but you literally in talking about it are lighting up and got a
Oh.
whole bunch of energy in talking about it. So
Thank
I
you.
love that. What portion of the journey do you feel is most difficult for people to be able to confront and work through? Is there a pattern that you've noticed between, you said that you in the beginning worked with almost exclusively men, and now you're transitioning to women and working with mainly women. Are you noticing a difference in the response and where the difficulties lie in the journey? Are there any of the same speed bumps that the correlate to gender?
Yeah. So to be completely transparent, this ascension journey, this blueprint, the worthiness codes, just came through the beginning of 2024.
Okay.
So I have yet to share it with the world. Like it was birthed through me. I'm turning it into an online course so people will be able to receive it. Um, so I think the best way to answer this is just looking at my journey,
Mhm.
because that's kind of all of what I can share at this moment. But the hardest part, oh, I mean, the first step in the letting go is really difficult. And it's really difficult for humans to let go of things because we hold attachments to everything,
Mhm.
especially a relationship. We stay in relationships so much longer, especially as women, so much longer than we should. I was 32 at the time. My partner bought us a house. Like I was with him for 4 years. So to step away from that, turning 33 and to start over and to be on my own and to be on my own financially, that was terrifying. And then to step away from my career, I'm like, what? How am I going to do that? So that was really scary for the human. But what's even more difficult, I think, is the ability to sit with your shit,
Mhm.
to sit with your shadows, to sit with your trauma, to sit with those emotions that bubble up to the
Mhm.
surface when you just want to like ignore them and push them down, but instead say, no, I'm not going to allow this anxiety to control my life anymore. I'm going to sit with it and see what's causing it. Those moments, I had many of those moments. It was really difficult, but so beautiful because that's where the growth happens.
I got hit with a wave of emotion with that. So I'm just going to barrel
Mm.
on through because this is not the time. We'll have a session another day, another point, and work through that together. Because I related a little. That was hitting a nail on the head
Mm.
for me and trigger point. So thank you.
I
Because
feel
now I
you, I
have
feel
to,
you.
now I will confront that later on today. And I appreciate the opportunity. Um, so you mentioned a podcast. Uh, is that another way of you sharing this worthiness code with the world? Tell me about your podcast.
Yeah, so the podcast is called The Worthiness Codes, and like I mentioned, this was like the first part that came through.
Mhm.
I was told to start with the podcast and the blueprint would make sense eventually. And so I moved forward with the podcast. I launched in November of 2023. And it's all about just inspiring women to step into their innate worthiness, their power, and their confidence. It's rooted through the lens of spirituality, but it's very grounded. So the way I explain things, the way I talk about things, it's easy to digest, easy to understand. Um, and a lot of the topics, of course, have to do with ascension,
Mm.
just bringing it back. Like the topics I was talking about have to do with the ascension journey. And now I'm like, oh, that makes sense as to why I was talking about these things, because now the blueprint, has a way for people to go deeper by listening to episodes. And what's really cool about my podcast is I'll do an episode one week where I'm just talking about a specific topic. And then the following week, I follow up to that episode with a guided meditation and light transmission for people to drop in deeper, to receive, the codes and the healing and the energy they need. So, for example, if I think yesterday I just launched an episode about moving through fear
Mm.
and up leveling. So then next week I'll launch a guided meditation that has something to do with moving through fear to help the person who's listening move through fear that they're experiencing in their own life.
And so now this is becoming a course that people will be able to take. When does that come out?
Yeah, the goal is by my 34th birthday,
Okay.
so September.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I'm hoping before. I'm like I'm so flowy with everything and I'm just allowing things to, happen when they happen, but the goal is by the end of the summer. So, I will share my information at the end of the episode for people who are interested to keep an eye out, but yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to post all the links so people can keep posted and things in
Yeah.
the description notes too. For another thing, when we were first initially talking and trying to schedule this podcast and recording, I think you said that you were in Bali, uh,
Mhm.
and I feel like that's a great area of the world for everything that you're talking about, that everybody is so much more open, and it's where a lot of the genesis of all this stuff has come from. So that every time I've ever spoken to anybody in spiritual healing, there's always a pilgrimage of sorts
Mm.
to that area of the
Mhm.
world. Have you noticed a difference in, is that what your purpose was in going there? I want to hear a little bit more about the trip and how that may have impacted
Yeah.
you in your spiritual journey and your ascension journey.
Yeah. Oh, first, let me just say, like, I always wanted to just pick up and go somewhere and just travel. I never allowed myself to do it.
It's worth it.
My last relationship, like, I held myself back because of my partner, and the thought of, like, traveling alone just always scared me.
Mhm.
So, I was feeling a really strong call to travel. Bali wasn't necessarily at the top of my list, it was on my list. But then I had a girlfriend. I kept seeing Bali, you know how the universe will give you like signs to do something. So I kept seeing Bali everywhere. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. Give me like one really clear sign that I'm meant to go. And I walked into this crystal shop that my friend was working at. And she's like, Jaclyn, I think I'm going to go to Bali for my birthday in like a couple weeks. Do you want to go? And I'm like, okay. So this was back in April. And I ended up staying 3 weeks in Bali, 1 week in Thailand.
Okay.
Went with my friend, but we like separated a ton throughout the trip. So it was a lot of solo travel as well. And the two biggest takeaways is for anyone that's listening is the first, if you feel called to going somewhere specifically, it's for a very specific reason. Land is very powerful because it holds specific codes. Your soul is infinite. You have ancestors. So you're being called to a certain place for a reason, whether it's to receive something, to heal something, um, or to just experience something that is outside of your comfort zone. So for me, doing this, it was very much outside of my comfort zone, and going to a sacred land like Bali held so much remembrance for me that upon landing, I was just smacked in the face with like all of the shit I had to work through before stepping into the next stage on this ascension journey. So, of course, it was related to the ascension journey that I was being initiated into, but just overall, the experience of Bali was chef's kiss, like amazing, absolutely amazing.
It's interesting that you phrased it the way that you did. The whole genesis of this podcast is my journey that I was living abroad for 9 months, and I was supposed to go and get my dual citizenship, and things, of course, fell apart as they always did. But people always ask me, why would you want to go? Why wouldn't you want to just stay in the United States? Why do you want to live someplace else? And
Mm.
I never knew how to explain it to people, that it was never a good enough reason for anybody, which was so silly why it had to be justified to anybody. But um, I always expressed that since I was a little girl, I knew I needed to go over to Europe and explore Europe. I
Wow.
Asia, Africa, Australia also seemed great, but for whatever reason, I was called to just anywhere in Europe. There was no country in particular, just that continent. And the 9 months
Mm.
I was able to be there, it was the biggest healing I've ever had. And every time the first time I went, I was there for a month studying abroad, and I was telling my parents, like, I just need to be there for a way longer period of time. I'm supposed to be here.
Wow.
And I knew I had to unfortunately come back 2 months ago kicking and screaming because I just knew my healing journey wasn't done yet. And everybody's like, "Oh, great, you probably got that out of your system." I'm like, "No, not yet. I know I still have more to do over there, but now I'm getting inspired to go to Thailand and other places
Mm.
that I'm getting called to now in my own gut and my own.
Yeah.
I obviously have seen pictures online, and the algorithms are being like, "You should go here," but
Yeah.
and it's inspiring me. But I definitely have felt a pull, a
Wow.
geographical pull to someplace other than here. And the biggest healing journey actually was I connected to family members in Italy, cousins of
Wow.
my great grandfather that are still alive. And getting to meet them and getting to go into the house that my great grandfather was born in, that is now a souvenir shop, and getting to walk
Wow.
in the church that he was like, I felt rooted and at home and okay and safe and comfortable. So I'm sure
Mm.
there's way more to that and a whole other podcast episode about that. But I definitely relate to you when you talk about that journey.
Yeah. Wow, I had chills when you said that you felt like you were meant to be in Europe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so true. It's like nothing's a coincidence. And that just like to tie it back a little bit, our egos control so much. So oftentimes, like when we choose a vacation or we choose an excursion, it's like because the ego wants it. But if you just surrender to it
Yep.
and you allow yourself to hear the call, you're going to receive so much because it's for a very specific
Yeah.
reason. And the unfolding of it is just the most magical thing.
Which is what my blog and podcast are all about. And and
Mm.
probably need to go to a session of yours and look back at the entries I put over the past year and just walk through it all and what it all means and make sense of it, probably. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
It'll be a beautiful story that you're cultivating for yourself.
yes. And thanks to conversations with people like you that have connected me to a different part of myself that I didn't know existed, which hopefully this is a pitch
Mm.
to encourage others to then come and chat with you. It has opened up all these other possibilities because of it. So I'm very appreciative to be able to chat with you today.
Mm.
Um,
Likewise.
I feel like this is the beginning of many, many conversations. So I feel almost like I'm not ready to end it because I feel like there's more in our journey and our conversation, but I also want to be conscious of your time. So as we wrap out this episode, I always ask the same series of questions to all my guests, and it's just rapid fire. Is it okay if I ask you those questions?
Yes, let's do it.
Perfect. What is your city with the best food in your opinion?
City with the best food, New York.
I'll take it.
Definitely has the best
As a
food.
native New Yorker, I will take it. Do you prefer a vacation that requires you to be active or relax?
Balance, baby. Little bit of both.
Love that. And where is the city where you learned the most about yourself?
Los Angeles.
Love that. And then, of
Yep.
course, tell us where people can find you and be on the lookout for when your course becomes live and your podcast.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Jaclyn Francis. And I would love for you to tune into the podcast, the Worthiness Codes podcast. I share a lot of just beautiful guidance and information on there. And I will keep you guys updated for those who are interested in the blueprint. I will keep you updated on the podcast as well on my social media.
Love that. I am going to make sure that there are links to everything in the show description notes. That way
Thank
people can
you.
find you more easily. And the podcast is out
Beautiful.
on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever
Yeah, it's
podcasts.
on all platforms.
Perfect. I
Yep.
can't wait to listen to all of them and learn how to meditate through you.
Yeah, drop into one of your mind will be like, "What is happening right now?" But I think your soul will thank you if you drop into one of the guided meditations on the podcast.
Perfect. I'm so excited for them. Thank you so much, Jaclyn. It is a pleasure to meet
Thank
you.
you,
Of
Ashley. Yes, such a pleasure. I enjoy the conversation, and we'll talk soon.
course.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you're interested in a part 2 or have any questions in general for the Eat, Explore, Love family, make sure to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Any information that you need will be in the show notes and the description of this podcast episode. Till next time. Thank you for joining me this week for all the fun journeys and lessons learned on my big adventure called life. For more information on the different cities discussed, check out the blog posts on hieatexplorelove.com, posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Until next week, remember to eat well, explore the world, and love yourself. See you next time. This episode is produced, scripted, and edited by me, Ashley. Special thanks to Sarah Mientka.